The knife flashes in the dim light. You are 12 years old, your body trembling as rough hands pin you down on a blood-stained mat. The air reeks of incense and iron, of fear and sweat. Outside, the call to prayer drifts faintly from a distant minaret, a reminder of a world that is slipping away from you forever. You don't yet understand the full horror of what is about to happen. You only know that escape is impossible. A man kneels beside you, a surgeon, or perhaps just a butcher. His tools gleam with cruelty. There are no prayers, no words of comfort. Just the cold efficiency of a ritual repeated countless times before. In one moment, with one cut, your life will no longer be your own. You will be unmanned, reshaped into something neither boy nor man, stripped of a future you cannot yet imagine. You are to become a eunuch, castrated to serve the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. This is not a story of choice. It is a story of power, of suffering hidden behind marble walls and golden domes. For centuries, boys like you were taken, mutilated, and transformed into the silent backbone of the Ottoman court. They lived lives of contradiction, both slaves and masters, powerless in their own bodies, yet wielding immense influence over an empire. Their voices were rarely heard, their pain rarely recorded, and yet their story is as much a part of history as the sultans they served. But before we continue deeper, let me pause. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe, because on this channel we bring you the forbidden truths and hidden stories of history. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from right now? These dark whispers of the past reach us across oceans and centuries, and I'd love to know where they find you tonight. Now, let us return to that moment. The pain is indescribable. A searing, blinding agony shoots through your body as the knife cuts away not only flesh, but your very future. Your cries echo off stone walls, but no mercy comes. For hours, perhaps days, you drift between fever and silence, your body fighting to survive the mutilation. Many boys do not. It is said that only 1 in 3 survives the castration. Those who live are carried into a new existence, one defined not by what they are, but by what they no longer have. For the Ottomans, eunuchs were essential. They guarded the most sacred spaces of power, the Sultan's harem, the hidden world of wives, concubines, and children that no other man was allowed to enter. To ensure their safety around women of the court, eunuchs were created, their bodies sacrificed so that they could serve in silence. To the empire, this was necessity. To you, it is a lifelong prison. As your wounds begin to heal, you are clothed in the dark robes of a palace servant. Your hair is cut, your name perhaps changed. You are no longer simply a boy from your village. You are property of the Sultan, a living tool of the empire. Other eunuchs surround you, their faces marked by the same silence, their eyes avoiding yours. They do not speak of what they have endured. They do not need to. The silence itself is enough. Life inside the Topkapi Palace is dazzling and cruel. The marble courtyards, the mosaics glittering with gold, the fountains murmuring in the gardens, all of it seems like paradise. Yet you know the truth. These walls are not freedom. They are gilded cages. Every step you take is watched, every word measured. Your duty is to serve, to guard doors, to fetch, to carry, to obey. But your most important duty is silence. Still, within that silence lies power. Eunuchs hold keys to the most secret chambers. They witness the whispers of sultanas. They guard the letters exchanged in the night. Slowly, you begin to see that in this strange, mutilated existence, there is influence to be gained. Perhaps not freedom, never freedom, but power. The kind that comes from knowing the secrets of those who rule the world. And yet, the cost is unbearable. Every time you pass a mirror, you see the boy you once were slipping further away. Every time laughter drifts from the women's quarters, you feel the cruel reminder of what has been taken from you. You are both near and far from the heart of the empire. You live at the center of power, yet stripped of your own. This is the paradox of your new life. You are both victim and instrument, both powerless and powerful, both despised and indispensable. And as the years go by, the pain of your mutilation will fade into memory, but the scars will shape everything you become. Because the eunuchs of the Ottoman court were not just servants. They were the watchers, the keepers of secrets, the silent enforcers of the Sultan's will. Some would rise to unimaginable influence, controlling not just doors, but entire empires. And yet, beneath every robe, behind every bowed head, was the same memory of blood and pain. The same boy who once screamed beneath the knife at 12 years old. And that is where our story now turns, into the corridors of the Topkapi Palace, where the eunuchs rose from victims of mutilation to masters of hidden power. The gates of the Topkapi Palace swing open, and for the first time you step into the hidden heart of the Ottoman Empire. Before you lies a world unlike anything you have ever seen. The air smells of rosewater and spiced lamb drifting from the kitchens. Courtyards sparkle with fountains, mosaics glint with gold, and silk curtains ripple in the breeze. It feels like paradise, until you remember why you are here. You are not a guest, you are not a courtier, you are a eunuch, a servant bound to silence and obedience, a body reshaped for the empire's purposes. Your new station is unlike that of other slaves. While some toil in the kitchens or haul water for the baths, you are chosen for a more delicate task, to guard the Sultan's harem. This is the most secretive, most jealously protected space in the entire palace. Beyond its carved wooden doors lie the Sultan's wives, concubines, and children, a world forbidden to all other men. Only you and your brothers, the eunuchs, are permitted inside. The harem is both dazzling and suffocating. Silk cushions spill across the floors, incense burns from golden braziers, and the laughter of women echoes through the tiled halls. But for you, this is no playground. You are not here to enjoy, only to protect. You patrol corridors silently, your eyes lowered, your body a constant reminder of what you have lost. To the women, you are both familiar and invisible, always present, yet never fully seen. Your duties are endless. You carry messages between the Sultan and his concubines, arrange the baths, enforce order among the women. At night, you lock the harem doors with iron keys that never leave your side. You are trusted with the Sultan's most private world, and in that trust lies danger. For knowledge is power, and power is something few can resist. At first, you keep your head down. Survival demands obedience. But soon you notice how your fellow eunuchs whisper among themselves, how they exchange knowing glances, how they seem to hold more authority than their bowed heads suggest. They know which concubine has the Sultan's favor, which wife schemes for her son's future, which servant has betrayed her mistress. Every secret of the harem passes through eunuch hands. Slowly, you begin to see the truth. The eunuchs are not just guardians, they are watchers, mediators, spies. They know more about the Sultan's household than the viziers who govern the empire. Their silence is their shield and their weapon. Yet for all this hidden power, the humiliation remains. When you pass the mirrors of polished brass, you are reminded of your mutilation. When laughter rises from the women's chambers, you feel the ache of absence. You are close to intimacy, yet forever denied it. This is the cruel paradox of your existence, entrusted with the Sultan's most private world, but barred from the very humanity that world represents. Still, the longer you serve, the more you adapt. Pain becomes memory, silence becomes habit, and in that silence, influence grows. You learn which words to carry and which to withhold. You learn how to bend rules without breaking them. You learn how to listen, and in a court where secrets decide fates, listening is everything. The women of the harem know this too. Some bribe eunuchs for favors. Others whisper promises of protection if you carry their message faithfully. You find yourself at the center of a quiet web. each thread pulling you deeper into the currents of palace intrigue. For the first time since the knife took your future, you feel the faintest taste of power. But it is dangerous power. The walls of Topkapi Palace are lined with silence, yet every silence hides a secret. To carry the wrong word to the wrong ear could cost you more than your position. It could cost you your life. And so you walk the corridors carefully, balancing obedience with cunning. The Sultan trusts you, his wives tolerate you, his viziers watch you with suspicion. You are both servant and master, prisoner and player. The harem is no paradise. It is a battlefield, and you, the eunuch, are both its guard and its captive. What you do not yet know is that this battlefield will only grow deadlier. For as decades pass, eunuchs will rise from silent servants to shadow kings, controlling the palace, shaping dynasties, and even deciding who would sit upon the Ottoman throne. The palace changes you. At first, you thought yourself only a mutilated boy forced into servitude. But years inside the Topkapi Palace teach you that survival here is not about strength of body. It is about strength of silence, memory, and calculation. Every day you walk the tiled corridors of the harem, keys jangling at your side, ears tuned to every whisper. You speak little, but you hear everything. And in a world where words can topple sultans, listening makes you powerful. The Sultan's harem is not merely a sanctuary of silk and song. It is the hidden heart of empire, a place where the future of dynasties is born. Within its chambers, concubines compete for the Sultan's attention, each one dreaming of bearing the son who might rule the empire. Mothers scheme for their children, favorites rise and fall, and jealousies ignite like sparks in dry straw. You, the eunuch, stand at the center of it all. You become a messenger, a confidant, a gatekeeper. When a concubine seeks to send a secret note, it passes through your hand. When the Sultan's chief wife wishes to summon her allies, you are the one who carries her word. When disputes flare among the women, it is you who restores order, sometimes with soothing words, sometimes with iron authority. Without eunuchs, the harem would collapse into chaos, and so your role grows. You are not just a servant. You are an arbiter of secrets, a silent power behind the veil. Slowly, you see how eunuchs rise beyond the harem, their influence stretching into the highest levels of government. Some are entrusted with the palace treasury. Others oversee vast estates. The most powerful of all, the chief black eunuch, known as the Kisla-Akosk, becomes second only to the Sultan himself in the hierarchy of the palace. Imagine it. A man who was once a terrified boy on a blood-stained mat now holds the keys to the empire's most intimate world. He decides which petitions reach the Sultan's ears. He controls the movement of the Sultan's wives and concubines. He stands between the ruler of millions and the women who might shape his will. To cross him is to risk exile or execution. His voice, though soft, can bend the fate of empires. Yet, even as power grows, the shadow of mutilation never leaves. Every eunuch carries it. You feel it in the laughter of soldiers who mock your condition, in the sideways glances of courtiers who despise you even as they fear you. You are powerful, but never whole, respected, yet never honored. The empire cannot survive without you, yet it will never fully accept you. Still, in this contradiction, you thrive. You learn to play the game of influence, balancing loyalties between concubines, viziers, and the Sultan himself. You are careful with your favors, generous with your silences. Every choice you make weaves you deeper into the web of palace politics. The harem itself becomes a theater of intrigue. You witness women rise from obscurity to power, their sons elevated to princes, their rivals cast into shadow. You see alliances form, betrayals unfold, tears shed in gilded chambers. And through it all, you stand as guardian, observer, manipulator. You are both everywhere and nowhere, always present, yet rarely acknowledged. But with power comes danger. The palace is as deadly as any battlefield. Viziers plot, to curb the influence of eunuchs. Ambitious concubines bribe, flatter, or threaten to secure your loyalty. Even the sultan's favor is fickle. One mistake, one whispered accusation, and you could be dismissed, imprisoned, or executed. Power is intoxicating, but it is never secure. Still, the eunuchs endure. For centuries, they become the silent machinery of empire, shaping dynasties from the shadows. Some grow fabulously wealthy, their estates rivaling those of noblemen. Others carve their names into history as kingmakers, deciding which princes ascend the throne. To the outside world, they are objects of curiosity, even ridicule. But inside the palace, they are indispensable, the invisible spine of Ottoman power. And you, once a boy broken at 12, now find yourself caught in this paradox. You are not a man, not free, not whole. Yet within the palace walls, you wield more influence than most generals or governors. You have survived the knife. You have survived silence. And now, you are something more dangerous than either victim or servant. You are a eunuch of the Sultan escort, and your shadow stretches further than you ever imagined. But your journey is far from over, because the higher you rise, the more dangerous the game becomes. And soon, you will face choices that pit loyalty against survival, silence against truth, and obedience against ambition. The palace is never quiet, even when the fountains murmur in the courtyards and the call to prayer floats over the Bosporus. The corridors of Topkapi hum with whispers. Every word carries weight, every silence hides intent. And you, the eunuch, stand at the crossroads of it all. You guard the harem's doors, but you also guard its secrets. And in the Ottoman court, secrets are worth more than gold. By now, you have risen beyond a simple attendant. You carry messages not only for the women of the harem, but for viziers, princes, even the sultan himself. One wrong word could topple a rival. One withheld truth could change the fate of an heir. And though you walk with bowed head, you know the truth. Power runs through your hands as surely as it runs through the sultaness' veins. But power in the palace is never safe. You notice how the viziers glance at you with narrowed eyes, their whispers sharp with contempt. To them, you are an interloper, a mutilated slave daring to influence the empire. They plot quietly, seeking ways to cut you and your brothers down, to restore the old balance where only soldiers and statesmen ruled. Yet, they cannot move too quickly, for even they know, without eunuchs, the palace itself would collapse into chaos. The women of the harem understand this even better. They depend on you, and they fear you. The sultan's favorite might bribe you with jewels to deliver her letter. A mother might beg you to protect her son, the young prince who could one day wear the crown. Another might threaten you with ruin if you whisper her schemes to her rivals. Every door you open, every glance you permit, every silence you maintain is a gamble with lives at stake. And through it all, the chief black eunuch, the Kisla Akosk, towers over the palace like a shadow king. He decides which petitions reach the sultan, which visitors are admitted, which princes see their father. Viziers may command armies, but he commands access. And in the Ottoman court, access is everything. Entire dynasties rise or fall at his nod. But such power paints a target. History is filled with eunuchs who rose too high, who played the game too boldly, who fell under the blade of jealous viziers or suspicious sultans. You hear the stories whispered in the dormitories at night, of men dragged in chains through the palace gates, of executions carried out in silence, of bodies buried without ceremony. To rise is to tempt fate. To be indispensable is to be dangerous. Still, ambition is a fire not easily quenched. You taste it now, in the subtle favors you grant, in the quiet alliances you forge. A prince grows fond of you, a concubine owes you her future, a vizier begrudgingly accepts your silence. Piece by piece, you weave yourself into the web of power. And with every step, you feel the risk tighten like a noose. One night, you are summoned. The Sultan's mother, the valid Sultan, wishes to see you. She is the true power of the harem, the woman who raised the ruler of the empire. Her word can shatter viziers. Her will can redirect armies. As you kneel before her, you realize she has been watching you. She knows your alliances, your silences, your growing influence. Her eyes burn with the same mixture of calculation and menace that defines the palace itself. Loyalty, she says softly, is the only coin that matters here. Spend it wisely. The warning chills you. It is both a threat and a promise. She could destroy you with a gesture, or raise you beyond your wildest dreams. And in that moment, you understand the truth of your life. Survival is not about obedience alone. It is about balance, about walking the razor's edge between power and peril. But you also know something else. The longer you serve, the deeper you are drawn into the palace's hidden wars. Eunuchs are not merely victims, nor merely servants. They are players in the deadliest game on earth, the game of empire. And soon, that game will demand more of you than silence. It will demand choices that could alter the fate of the Ottoman dynasty itself. The empire trembles, but the harem endures. Wars rage on the frontiers, viziers rise and fall, but within the walls of the Topkapi Palace, the real game is played. And you, the eunuch, are no longer just a silent servant. You are part of the invisible hand that shapes the Ottoman dynasty. The Sultan grows older, more withdrawn, his days consumed by ritual and indulgence. Around him swirl the currents of ambition, concubines desperate to secure their sons' futures, viziers jostling for influence, foreign ambassadors pushing their agendas. Yet every message, every meeting, every whisper must pass through you and your brothers. You are the gatekeepers, the unseen arbiters of destiny. The chief black eunuch, the Kisla Akask, sits at the center of this web. His residence is a palace within the palace, filled with servants, guards, and riches beyond imagining. He controls the harem treasury, manages vast estates in Egypt, and commands respect that rivals even the Grand Vizier. When foreign ambassadors seek favor, they slip bribes not only to viziers, but to the chief eunuch, knowing his word may carry further than a soldier's sword. And it is not only wealth that flows through his hands, it is succession itself. For when a sultan dies, it is often the eunuchs who decide which prince is brought forth to claim the throne. Some princes are weak, others ambitious, still others mere children. The choice can determine the empire's fate for decades to come. In those shadowy hours after a ruler's death, when the palace is locked and the city waits in silence, it is eunuchs who open the right doors and close the wrong ones. Imagine the weight of that power. A trembling 12-year-old boy, once mutilated on a blood-stained mat, now holds the keys to empire. His voice whispers the fate of millions. His silence decides who will live, who will die, who will rule. And yet, this power comes with peril. The history of eunuchs is littered with bodies of those who rose too high, too quickly. Some were strangled in secret chambers, their estates confiscated overnight. Others were poisoned by rivals, their names erased from memory. Power in the palace is intoxicating, but it is never safe. Still, the eunuchs endure. They weave themselves into the fabric of empire, invisible but indispensable. They build networks stretching from the kitchens to the throne room, from the baths of the harem to the distant provinces of Egypt. They know which viziers can be trusted, which concubines plot in the night, which ambassadors whisper treachery. And in this knowledge lies their strength. But for you, there is always the shadow of memory. Every time you touch the keys at your belt, you remember the boy you once were, the boy whose future was cut away with a knife. Every time you watch a prince play in the gardens, you feel the ache of what might have been. You are powerful, but you are never free. You command, but you can never create. You are both master and mutilated servant. The irony is cruel. The empire depends on you, yet despises you. The people of Istanbul mock eunuchs in the streets, calling them unnatural half-men. Soldiers laugh at your robes, merchants sneer at your silence. But inside the palace, those same men bow their heads, for they know who truly holds the keys to power. You are at once ridiculed and feared, indispensable and loathed. As the years pass, you see how this paradox corrodes even the strongest of your brothers. Some drown themselves in riches, building palaces of their own. Others grow paranoid, trusting no one, sleeping with daggers beneath their pillows. A few, drunk on influence, believe themselves untouchable, until the bowstring of the executioner proves otherwise, and you walk the razor's edge. Every step must be measured, every silence chosen carefully. You have risen beyond victimhood, but the cost of falling is always before you. The palace remembers nothing but power, and it consumes all who hold it too tightly. Yet, for all the danger, you cannot turn away. For the eunuchs of the Ottoman court are no longer just guardians of the harem. They are kingmakers, empire builders, shadow sovereigns whose fingerprints mark the very fabric of history. And soon, the empire itself will depend on you in a way it never has before. When succession falters, when rivals clash, when blood runs through the palace halls, and the eunuchs must decide who will wear the crown. The palace trembles with silence. The Sultan is dead. His body lies in secret, veiled from the eyes of the city, while the fate of the empire hangs in the balance. Outside the walls of Topkapi, Istanbul waits, merchants in the bazaar, soldiers in the barracks, imams in the mosques, all wondering who will be crowned. But within these marble corridors, the decision belongs not to the people, nor even to the viziers. It belongs to you and your brothers, the eunuchs. This is the most dangerous moment in the Ottoman court. The hours after a sultan's death, princes wait like wolves in the dark, each with their own mothers whispering ambition into their ears. Some are children, too young to rule. Others are men, already plotting vengeance against rivals. And it is you, the eunuch holding the keys, who decides which prince will be brought forth and which will be silenced forever. Imagine the weight of that choice. You unlock one door, and a boy becomes sultan. You keep another locked, and his brother is led to strangulation. The bowstring slips around his throat in the silence of the harem, and another life ends before it begins. Your silence, your obedience, your decision, it decides the empire's future. But such power cannot be exercised without consequence. Rival factions see you as kingmaker, and kingmakers are always targets. Viziers resent your influence. Concubines plot to control you. Princes who survive remember the whispers of eunuchs that shaped their fate. Every decision you make creates enemies, and in the palace, enemies are never forgotten. You hear the stories often of a chief eunuch strangled in the night by order of a paranoid sultan, of another poisoned by viziers who feared his influence, of still another dragged through the palace gates, his body dumped into the Bosporus, while his rivals feasted in celebration. The bowstring is never far, and the silence that once shielded you can quickly become your noose. And yet, despite the danger, the eunuchs endure. For no matter how many fall, the empire cannot function without them. Who else can guard the harem, control the gates, carry the sultan's most intimate words? The system feeds itself. For every eunuch who dies, another broken boy takes his place, mutilated at 12, stripped of his future, reshaped into silence. The cycle continues, blood and whispers binding the palace together. The contradiction grows sharper the longer you live in the court. You see eunuchs elevated to extraordinary heights, commanding treasuries, negotiating with foreign ambassadors, ruling estates larger than provinces. And yet, at the same time, you see them mocked in the streets, cursed by soldiers, despised by commoners as unnatural creatures. You are both master and monster, necessary and condemned. Still, there are moments when the power is undeniable. You recall standing in the shadowed chamber, the young prince trembling before you. his rivals already strangled, his mother weeping with joy. You hand him the seal of the empire, and with trembling fingers he accepts. In that instant, you realize you have made a sultan. The boy's throne is built not just on blood, but on your silence. But this victory carries poison, for the prince you crown today may be the man who destroys you tomorrow. Gratitude is rare in the palace. Suspicion is constant, and once you are seen as indispensable, you are also seen as dangerous. The higher you rise, the closer you stand to the bowstring. So you walk the razor's edge, every day a calculation, every night a prayer. You balance loyalty to the sultan with loyalty to survival. You bend without breaking, silence without betraying, and still, you know, one day, perhaps soon, your luck will run out. Because the Ottoman court devours even its most faithful servants, and the eunuchs, for all their power, are never more than a heartbeat away from ruin. Centuries have passed since the days when the knife fell on trembling boys of 12. The Ottoman Empire itself is gone, its palaces now museums where tourists wander through tiled corridors once thick with whispers. The fountains still murmur, the domes still gleam, but the voices of those who guarded the Sultan's most private world are long silent. History remembers the sultans: Suleiman the Magnificent, Mehmed the Conqueror, Ahmed the Just. Their names echo in textbooks and monuments. But the eunuchs, those broken boys reshaped into instruments of empire, remain in the shadows. Their power was immense, their presence indispensable, yet their stories are almost invisible. Think of the contradiction. They were slaves, yet they commanded princes. They were mutilated, yet they shaped dynasties. They were mocked in the streets, yet feared in the palace. They guarded the sultan's wives and concubines, yet they themselves would never know the intimacy of fatherhood, never hear a child call them Baba. They lived surrounded by silk and gold, yet carried scars that never faded. And yet, without them, the empire could not have stood. The eunuchs were the silent machinery that kept the Ottoman court alive. They carried letters, guarded gates, enforced the sultan's will. They decided who entered the harem, who spoke to the sultan, who lived and who died. They were, in every sense, the shadows of power. But power is not legacy. For centuries, the world remembered them only in mockery, as curiosities, as unnatural men. Their pain was ignored, their voices erased. Only fragments remain. A letter here, a rumor there, scattered mentions in the records of diplomats and travelers. The rest is silence. And perhaps that is the most haunting truth. The eunuchs lived their lives in silence, and history preserved that silence. The boy, castrated at 12, who rose to hold the keys of empire, has no monument. His name is forgotten, his suffering unrecorded. He is at once everywhere in history and nowhere at all. As you walk the courtyards of Topkapi today, you may hear the laughter of tourists, the click of cameras, the shuffle of feet on ancient stone. But if you listen closely, you might imagine another sound. The echo of footsteps in the night, the jangle of iron keys, the soft voice of a eunuch whispering through a locked door. You might feel the weight of eyes that once watched every movement, guarded every secret, carried burdens too heavy for any boy to bear. Because the eunuch story is not just the story of mutilation. It is the story of survival, of boys who endured unspeakable cruelty, who turned silence into strength, who carved power from the very act meant to strip it from them. They were victims, yes, but they were also survivors, manipulators, kingmakers, human beings caught in the cruelest paradox history could devise. And so, their legacy remains. Not in marble statues or gilded tombs, but in the shadows of history, in the unanswered questions, in the silences that still haunt the palace walls. Their story reminds us that power always has a hidden cost, and that the cost is often paid by those who cannot speak of it. So the next time you hear of Ottoman sultans, of their glory, their battles, their grandeur, Remember also the silent ones, the boys castrated at 12, who guarded the Empire's secrets, who held the keys to destiny, who lived lives of both terror and influence. Because history is not only the story of rulers, it is also the story of those forced to serve them, in silence, in shadow, in pain. And sometimes, the whispers of those shadows are the ones that echo the loudest across time.